All right, shalom, shalom, family. I am Haji Golightly. In the Israelite tradition, I go by AriYahu. I'm honored to be here today to share with my elders. You guys have no idea you are in. Just prepare yourself for a treat because you don't have or you won't have the opportunity to hear words from above like what we're about to share from the Honorable Dr. Thomas Murray, which you guys will hear me. I've spoken about him so many times. Our beloved Elder Asa. We'll be talking about just a myriad of different things. But we are here today to celebrate our brother AriYahu. He has invited us down on his homestead. And as you can see, we have a beautiful backdrop. It's a lovely lake.
Beautiful.
You know, it's a beautiful fall season, and we're just out here having a glass of wine. Just had a great vegetarian meal that has been just phenomenal. So I mean, just like this big time round of applause for you, AriYahu. We really appreciate you. So that being said, we're just going to have a quick conversation, family, just about homesteading, and we'll talk to AriYahu. We'll allow him to just to share some words. But before we do that, I want to yield the floor to the chief elder if you had anything that you wanted to say before we begin.
No, we're just honored to be here. We're just so thankful that the Father just expressed himself through our own AriYahu.
Yes.
And what the Father shows his faithfulness to those who are faithful.
Ooh.
And so we're just so honored to be a witness that our Father is faithful.
Yes, he is.
Because you have been very faithful in your deportment, in how you've carried yourself in your service to Elder Asa here right in Georgia, and you cannot, you can't mock whatever a man sows. That this
Reap.
shall he reap.
Yes.
And so it's just good to see the Father's faithfulness.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Todah for those words. Elder Asa, did you have something?
Double portion.
Double portion.
That's it.
All right, AriYahu. Well, we have Yirmiyahu over here in the corner. His my nephew Yared, and we have the other Yirmiyahu over here on this side. I don't want to not introduce everybody, but AriYahu, go ahead and just share whatever you like to share, as well as how you arrived at this beautiful place.
Wow.
That's a lot to unpack, as you say.
Humility was the major factor for me. I grew up kind of allowed to, move on my own volition. Whatever comes to my mind, go and do it. Nobody told me I could or I couldn't. Or along with that, I never really got guidance on what to do. It was always just me deciding what to go do.
Right.
But the Bible talks about, not serving a man that's lesser than yourself. You know what I mean? So I did a lot of moving around. I grew up without my biological father.
Where did you grow up?
Detroit. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan.
Okay.
Start moving around, doing a lot of traveling about 12 to 15 years ago. And I met a lot of people worldwide. Was able to meet up with some different Hebrew groups. I feel like I met some men of sagacity of some sort. They was leaders of men at their own communities. But I was always able to, it's nothing that I'm commending myself for, but I was always able to look at these men like, nah, that's not for me. So I can't serve here. This not the spot for me. So I kept moving around, and then when I met Elder Asa, it was just a lot of things that, I saw an older version of myself and places that I wanted to be when I got older, and the carefulness that he took in pretty much everything. And that for me exposed how much lack of care I had in things. And that right there let me know this is where I need to serve. You know what I mean? Because nobody else would call that out.
Right.
Everybody else would just be like, you know, hey brother, you blessed, or I like how you do this, or I like how you do that. This man, bruh, you need to tighten up. So for me, that took me back to like, you know, the sports area. You know, my coaches always, for some reason I had the kind of coaches that was constructive criticism. You know, and I had a stepdad somewhat who was the same, and also reminded me of it. So I was like, you know what, I could get with this. I could get with this. You know, I could see direction, I could see vision.
And he literally said that early on.
Yeah, yeah. And I can see somebody who I definitely can't compare myself to. Like that's why I need to get rooted at. You know, so that led me to the path of wanting to get into husbandry. In that path, I realized a lot of things that I had to persevere through and, you know, work out a lot of soulish complaints, you know, especially about, you know, how most of us, when we get to a certain age as young men, can nobody tell me what to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I had to really humble myself and see that what this man is telling me to do is the right thing to be doing. You know what I'm saying? It's the right thing to be doing to prepare for what we're doing now. You know what I mean? So it was really getting with a man of vision that helped me realize how much more humility, how much more I need to learn. That pretty much got me here.
Okay.
That's what got me here. That path of perseverance and humility.
Okay, very good. Todah for sharing that because it, you know, what I'm hearing is the necessity of a young man to have an elder or an older and even a father figure to assist you in gaining, you know, greater skill sets and greater perspective. Having been around men in other cultures, I'm not gonna say other cultures, but other ways of doing things systematically. You know what I mean? But it may just purely be almost spiritual. They put so much weight on the spiritual element where you have an elder that focuses on dirt and blood, which we're here on your dirt. And part of what the Honorable Elder Murray has taught us is we're changing the face of what it looks like. When they say somebody is a Hebrew, we're changing what that looks like.
Yeah, man.
It's not just, you know, the street corner guy, and that's fine. But there needs to be a different narrative out there where there are men that are about business, that have blood and have dirt. So I want to kind of transition and allow the elders to maybe speak to the necessity of that, because it can't just be spiritual. It has to be something that we can touch, and it has to be something that comes from even as we talk about a patriarchal model, that a young man can exact in earth. So can you talk about that, Elder?
Well, and that's a very powerful segue, Sar. Because ultimately, what we're doing is exemplifying the father-son relationship. It does start spiritually, in the sense of just on the level of reproduction. When a man goes in his wife and releases himself, that seed is of such insignificance in its natural essence. It's microscopic, you know, and it goes in the woman, and it fertilizes her egg, and then in essence that seed is wrapped into flesh, you know, in that process. So that seed almost starts in a sense of in its quote unquote insignificance because it's so small and microscopic that it doesn't seem to be anything. In fact, it won't even survive
Right.
unless it goes into a predetermined designated place by the Father. But once it does get there, it wraps itself into something that becomes practical. It wraps itself into flesh and blood.
Yes.
And after a period of time designated by the Father, it then becomes, a he, because we're dealing with this father-son relationship. And that he is the same as him who put the he in the woman.
Yes.
So from this spiritual, almost insignificant, almost vaporous nature becomes one who is flesh and blood.
Yes.
So anything that is real has to emulate that. So the relationship between a father and a son is such that the father then takes on the role of what is called the insignificant or the vaporous, the spiritual. And the son takes on the role of that which is called the practical or the earthly. If you deal with one more than the other, if you deal with just that which is spiritual without dealing with that which is practical, which derives from the spiritual, then you are not operating in the same way that the Father set up life. Life was set up with those two, the seed, the egg, the womb, coming together in flesh, practical.
Yes.
That which is reality, that which you can see, touch, and feel. And so if you're not dealing with both of those areas, you're not really dealing with life. The Father represents that which is heavenly. The Son represents that which is earthly. And so for a complete training and a complete maturation of a man, he has to have both of those. So this young man that comes here that is on the earth, if he doesn't have that which represents heaven, his Father, then he's incomplete. If the man who is elderly and is in a father role and does not have that which is a son, he is incomplete.
Yes.
And so the way our Father intends, who is in the heavenly, and we now as his sons who are operating on the earth, in order for us to represent him properly, we must then have to mirror what he has created.
Yes.
In the scriptures, it talks about the essence of spirituality being so powerful that it's just a word. Be.
Be.
I mean, reproduction tries to duplicate that. In that moment of release, this man, knowingly or unknowingly, is tapped into a process that is heavenly, to where he is saying, be. Now, people are unconscious about this, but we who are of the Father, we're very conscious about what we're doing. In that sacred moment, we are speaking, let there be.
Yes.
Let there be who? Let there be what? Me.
Yes.
Let there be one who can take my place on earth, because I'm operating above. anything that does not do that dance, that father-son dance, that's the father-son dance. And we can take, we're not gonna take a lot of time, but we have, if you push me,
We got time,
we'll
though.
go from generations to revelations, and we'll show that is primarily all that you're seeing.
Yeah.
That's being played out, repeating over and over because it's a pattern. And so you would even see it in the case of what we're doing right now. We're in an earthly place that is real. It has a longitude, latitude point. I mean, we can, pick out where we are.
Yes.
It's earth, but it came from heaven.
Yes.
So how did it come about? There had to be a father and there had to be a son in order for this to manifest.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense.
That's
it
weighty.
does.
That's weighty. That makes sense. Because without that, there's a level of incompleteness.
Yes.
Now, I can transition from there with Elder Asa, even about, AriYahu has spoken to the benefits that he's gained from, being under or from serving you. You've also inherited some things from being in service to Chief Elder Murray. Can you speak to that, because we're still talking about that relationship and how every man has to participate in that, or those that come from you won't participate. So could you speak to that, Elder?
Well, I mean, I think the elder is spot on, and even what he's saying can apply to what you're saying right now. The sense of ultra spirituality is almost like a trick to keep us in this unconscious state, so that we're not deliberate and we're not intentional in what we do. So, AriYahu, he came to me, a couple years before I met Elder Murray, and when he came to me, he had this what I would call a very normal Hebrew Israelite facade. He was just an extraordinary man. But we gravitate, especially those of us who are pulled to the intentional, we gravitate to what is available. And then we do first a confirmation, we conform to it, and then we test what works and what does not work. And then we level up. So he came to me at this stage of leveling up, but he was trying to figure out what was there to level up to. You understand what I mean?
I do.
And when he came to me, he had a lot of the familiar Israelite jargon. And he came to the right one. Because I was schooled and graduated from that same jargon for a decade plus.
Right.
By the time he came around, matter of fact, from almost 2 decades plus. So I recognized it, I seen it for what it was, and I called BS. And one of the main conversational Hebrew jargon concepts that you see out there is, it's a way of life, it's not a religion.
Yeah, you hear it often.
Often, all the time.
Yeah.
But you hear it from people who subconsciously practice religiously that same unconscious behavior. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does.
So he said a couple of things to me, and I just asked him a couple of questions. What's this? And what's that? And he stopped and he said, "Oh man, I don't know." You know, and from there we had this. You know, I don't want to bring up the exact topics
Yeah, it's
because
cool.
we'll be going into that jargon more.
Yeah.
You know, and when he seen it, he said, "I have to be able to connect the dots." Now,
That's good.
now I wasn't able to connect the dots with him the same way I was after I met Elder Murray. Elder Murray brought it all together.
Hallelujah.
Yeah. But at the time, what I did know was dirt and the art of sowing and reaping. And what I basically was able to show him in his way of life is that he wasn't sowing nor was he reaping.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
It's real. And once he was able to and this is how the path goes for most of us. When he was able to capture that in deliberate form, it hit so hard he almost rejected it. Matter of fact, he did reject it for a little while. He rejected it. He was like, no. You know, I remember, what's that movie, The Matrix, man? When your boy finally found
He's gonna
out
pop.
he was gonna pop. You know, and I had this conversation with him. Oh man, this must have been about 2015, something like that. I had this conversation with him, and I said, my man, in order for you to do this right, you have to commit.
Yeah.
Ooh.
You have to make a covenant with this. And he looked at me. You remember this conversation? He looked at me and said,
Never committed to nothing.
I ain't never committed to nothing in my life. And I looked at him and I said,
Say that again, Elder, just to make sure they heard
I never committed to nothing in my life, he said. And I looked at him, I said, how are you a grown man and you have no covenants? And I think you left like the next day. What the hell with this? Who do you think he is?
right.
And you know, it was good. It was good that he left because, you know, I'd have forced some kind of commitment. Who knows what would happen? He was like, you know what? You're right. I'm getting out of here. And he looked within. And see, this is the way of life. The way of life for a Hebrew man is something has to challenge you from above. It has to touch your soul. And then, you know, just like Abraham had to do a 3-day journey before he sacrificed himself. I mean, his son.
I caught that.
He had to stop and walk and say, what was just told to me? How am I going to process this? And this is where that subconscious mind, that, you know, that satanic thought system comes into interaction with when the Father is actually channeling through other men to get to you. And he had to do his walk.
Okay.
And he did his walk, and he said, ain't nothing else out there. You know, and that's really the art of learning to be a husbandman. He learned, and he came back and he said, I'm ready. And he really put himself through the process. So much that it made him physically sick. Because he said, I have to understand what it actually is to be a Hebrew man.
Wow.
And when he was able to go through the fire with that, the Father had to take recognition of it and was able to push him to that next level. And here we are.
Here we are.
Hallelujah.
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 That's a beautiful story. And even to have those that are, you know, that you've submitted to, that are above, that can witness your transformation and you desiring to really know what that thing is. And maybe you can go into that because there are a lot of misconceptions about what it is. The whole we were talking a little bit earlier about you know masculinity. the whole perception of what it means to be a Hebrew man. And I don't even want to just say a Hebrew, to be an Israelite man. Because we can look at Esau. Esau was a Hebrew. But we are not like him in terms of, Chief Elder taught us a class about being an inside man versus the outside man. You remember that?
Oh yeah.
that was a great class. So if you can talk to maybe some of the shedding that was a part of your leveling up, and maybe those in the audience can benefit from a piece of your transition.
I'll start with the mandate to commit.
That's what it was.
That's
It was scary.
Yeah, it was scary. Because I can't say I always fended for myself, but I always felt like I had to. So I was out there with Elder Asa, and learning and working, but my mind wasn't in, I guess, the usness, or like it took me a while to be like, this is ours. It was just like, I'm building your farm.
Okay.
And once he hit me with the commitment thing, I'm like, yeah, I don't know what he wants from me. I can't do this. And so those are all facts. And then Elder Murray came, did what he did, and I remember the day sitting on the pier, and there's like, commit or walk. But that walk wasn't the walk he's mentioning.
Yeah.
It was, we about
Something
to do some
else.
things,
Yeah.
and if you're not going to step into this realm, we can't rock with you. We can't. And I'm sitting there like, what? I'm like, y'all, I can't comprehend this. Like, what more could I give up?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What more?
self.
And there it was.
Yeah.
There it was. Self right there. Because moving forward, there was some mandates put on me that I never would have thought I'd have walked out. Never. And it was make those decisions now. I've always had time to linger or just not even deal with it. They wasn't letting that go. Like, we need a commitment from you. So, and I would say that is for real when the challenges did start. Like Elder said, that's when I seemingly got more sick. Trying to comprehend what it's like to, and actually AriYahu showed up at that time. So I'm watching him perform, and I'm like, so, okay, this is what that father-son Hebrew thing looked like.
And so, for the record, AriYahu is Elder Asa's biological son. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I was watching that, and I was watching how that camaraderie, that father-son was building. And honestly, it kind of made me like a godly jealousy. And I'm like, yo, I'll never have that. I'll never be able to experience that because my biological passed when I was a youth. So I'm like, I really need to own this moment. I really need to, silence myself, silence my soul. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and a lot of the things that helped me, I had to backtrack. Like, this man that did nothing to harm me, hurt me, take from me, steal from me, none of that. Like, everything it was major painish, but it was like, yo, I want the best for you though.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm like, I gotta do this. I never had nobody push me like this. I never seen this scenario before. Like, it's all new. And that actually was the attraction and the humbling part. Because I know I never had it. And I wouldn't have had it unless I owned that moment.
Gang.
You did, man.
Yeah. And like that whole military science aspect is key in the development of a man. Baba Sekou talked about in order to have a rugged man, he has to come from a rugged land and have rugged conditions. So the conditions that you were born out of has prepared you this beautiful acreage where it's not where you're just talking about being a landowner and having a homestead. You're doing it. You are practicing Torah on your land, which is key versus, some people, they want to do it from the corner of an apartment fine, no judgments on that, but there's always levels. And those that we've submitted to challenge us to change how we view that Israelite walk. So with that, I'm gonna let some of our other brothers just chime in real quick, and then get back to the elders. AriYahu, you being, my sibling, my brother, I've witnessed you transition and change in an amazing way in a very short time. If you could speak to the necessity of how it's important for masculine men to be able to shift quickly, to respond. Can you speak to that? Because AriYahu kind of alluded to, like, I'm used to having lag time. Can you share what principles you've used, or what examples you have to draw from to move quick?
Well, one thing I do understand, that lag time will get you killed. Anytime you watch a war movie and you hear somebody say, get down, and that one person like, huh? As soon as you say huh, he got a bullet in his head. He should have got down.
Yes.
So I understand the lag time to get you killed. And so when I get certain directives from elders, I know what I can do. I need to do it immediately. When I was commissioned, with elders, like, we need to think about, if you got a daughter, think about a brother, and you need to betroth your daughter. I'm like, okay, I got a daughter. This is something that I can do immediately. Right. I don't have to wait. And that's something I did immediately. Me and Elder, we was on the phone. Me and Elder Murray, we was on the phone one day. I was just telling him a little bit of my background, and him being the man he is, being a great listener and evaluating men. He was
yes, he is.
Pulls it out of you, boy.
Yeah, boy. You ever thought about being a butcher? I was like, a butcher?
I'm not even sure what that background story looks like.
No, I was telling him how I wanted to have before I came to the walk, I wanted to have a barbecue restaurant. That was what I wanted to do. I've been in food and beverage for a long, long time. And we was talking, and through that,
he tried to stop me, so I had to put the knife to him.
It wasn't that. It was.
Go ahead.
But in talking, he was like, because we need a good butcher. So and so does butchering, but no, we need a butcher.
Yeah.
All right.
Ain't quite what I thought.
Yeah. But the more I thought about, so I'm gonna try to commit to this, and I went to Elder Asa, because Elder, he talked to Elder Asa, and I went to Elder Asa. We spoke about it, and it took about a year, Elder, right, for us to just try to find somewhere where I could learn the craft of butchering and slaughtering.
Yeah, man. But when it came, it was perfect.
It was perfect. But even before that,
But let me just I'm sorry, G.
No.
But we have to point out, because we want to keep it on the simplest way we can.
Yes,
that
sir.
is Father, Son,
came.
heaven, earth.
Yes, sir.
Because what you're talking about now is Father, Son, heaven, earth. The actual speaking and then manifestation.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? So because when we talk, then you hooked up on earth, but still higher. And then he spoke, and then from that it manifested a relationship with an actual butcher.
In the process of time.
And that's exactly what that means.
Yes, sir.
In the process of time. That's exactly how it works.
Yes.
But the process of time just doesn't happen unless you have these components that come together.
And then all kind of other things are happening. And you don't
And
even
then
see
they
it.
all happen. And it's working for you. And that's how the Father works.
Yes, sir.
So we have to always be cognizant and respectful of that process.
Yes.
When you're talking about it, you have to know this was the Father-Son moment. This was the heaven-earth moment. This was the Word manifestation moment.
Elder,
honor that,
Yes.
I want to speak to that if I can. It's good to point out that the way that the worldly mind works is that you have to do every single detail yourself. And what I'm hearing from both AriYahu and you is that things were put out there from an authority, and then you move forward to take steps in that direction. And that process of time piece was you had faith, you had faith that these things were to come to pass because of how it came to you.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's because I submitted myself to a son, to my elders,
As a son.
as a son.
Well, you committed to a son as well.
No, my fault. This is my son over here. But even that, he even knows. I make sure I speak with my son and let him know all the vows and commitments that I have made.
Why is that important?
Because he is me,
Mm-hmm.
and what I've said, it has to happen, whether I'm here or not. He will be commissioned to do these things,
Yes,
and he understands that.
So
So
that process of time is a variable. It could be generations,
came.
but the Father's still using
it's
that.
relative.
It's relative.
Yes.
And what you're saying is you're speaking to him to know you have to do some manifesting from what I have said.
Came.
And that's the Father, Son all over again.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I want to make sure that he knows all the vows. Like if something happened to me tomorrow, you pick up, get with Elder Asa, and we're going to complete what we started. And yeah, you can't have lag time. To get back to the original question, I know anytime I try to get a directive, I try to go on and jump on it. I don't want to wait because, like I said at the beginning, lag time will get you killed. So.
To that, and I deal with my son about this all the time. When the directive is given, a certain type of environment is there to make that directive manifest, and that environment a lot of times is a slave to time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like you might tell your son to do a thing today, and if he waits until next week, the success that he would have had today will not be there next week because all the different stimuli are now changed.
Okay.
So that a son looking to a father is like looking to a prophet.
Right.
Yes.
And the prophet has spoken as the Father has given to him. So he's just relating a word based upon that particular moment in time. And if you lag, you may not be able to do it later. The things that you take for granted today.
No, that's big.
Because when you said that, I was thinking about how when hurricanes are coming,
Huh?
and they know the hurricane is coming, and then you have a few, they prepare to get the sandbags in front of the storefronts, they go in and board it up, and then you have those ones that lag, like let me just see.
Yeah, man.
And then when it begin to rain, it begin to flood, now they want to start putting sandbags. It's too late.
Right.
You minimize some of the damage, but you should have done this ahead of time.
Ain't nothing worse
When
than
you got
being
the
in a
word.
tornado without a shelter.
Damn.
All right, cool. Todah for that answer. I want to transition over here to the other AriYahu. Even in something that G said, almost kind of riding through the storm. I think that as men, we all have storms in our life. How has your relationship with the elder been beneficial in helping you ride out the storm and prepare what you are in possession of, i.e. your family? How has that been beneficial to you in the same context as that father-son relationship? How has that benefited you?
And your beautiful homestead.
Beautiful homestead. So even, the directive to acquire those things, like, please feel free to share.
Well, for me, it was I was able to look in the mirror. I was able to see what I lacked, and for the most part, I would say for me, it was kind of like reality. You know, you tell yourself you're a man, you can do this, that, and the other. You're used to other people saying this about you, but at the end of the day, for me, it was like, wait a minute, let me take a step back. We talk about that humble piece. Let me really evaluate who I am, so that I can be honest with myself and rise to who I should be. And I think that's what really got me over the top to help me even take that step that I wasn't honestly comfortable taking. Didn't believe I had the ability to do certain things, whether it was building a shed myself. You know, like you see people do this on YouTube, whatever, and you live vicariously through them, but honestly, you don't think that could be you. But for me, you know, that experience, it really it broke me down to my true self, and then I was able to move forward to build.
So you said that experience. What do you mean? Just to clarify, what is that experience?
Well, I did an internship back in 2014 and 15. Myself and my family, my wife and daughter, and you know, we planned on buying land, trying to, you know, walk this thing out.
And this is at Atlanta Harvest. You did an internship.
Local lands.
Local lands. Okay.
Right. And I've seen people come and go.
And everybody wasn't committed, huh?
Yeah.
You heard that, Lemuel?
I didn't know if I could stomach it, and until I actually put my boots on the ground, you know, it revealed to me, you know, what I feared, and that was, can I do it? You know, and once I started really being quiet and listening, that helped a lot. You know, you just talked about that Hebrew mindset that a lot of us had at one point. I let all of that go and started doing practical things with intent. And I started seeing that being Hebrew or Israelite meant something a little bit differently than I just kind of brought up in this walk to believe.
Came because Todah for sharing. We've all been told what it means.
Yeah.
Like this dominant environment has a way of communicating to us directly what it wants us to think, feel, and believe, how it wants us to operate, and to get the approval of the environment, even though that environment is toxic and not producing for us, versus replicating a cycle of dysfunctional relationships, a cycle of error that we end up passing down to our children, versus which you know we talked about, you know, even in Christianity, you know, everybody, you know, I ain't under the generational curses no more. You know, I got generational blessings. How? Where's the fruit of that outside of what you're just speaking? You haven't done anything tangibly in order to place yourself in an environment such as this, which is why we're here, in order to teach your sons, to teach your daughters, to minimize the impact that the system has on them, so that there's no interruption in the father-son communication. There's no other voices that are more dominant than the voice of the Father, which is speaking the voice of the Father. You know what I mean? So being able to move on a word, which is like a term that the Honorable Dr. Murray talks to us about, is just not having lag time, to receive what has been given to you, to not question, to look yourself in the mirror, to address my fears. I may need to have a conversation, but that fear does not mean that you don't act and don't move. So that father-son dynamic can give a son courage.
That's the word.
Courage. So how have you helped to strengthen and give men such as myself, such as, you know, Elder Asa, like that courage to really execute?
Yeah, I haven't given anything. It's
Good glasses.
I mean, you can't, I can't plant a weed and expect fruit, from it, It has to be what it is. I may assist in, relocating it in good ground, but it has to be what the fruit is.
Yes.
Genetically.
So that's the Father.
Yeah.
Father made you, and therefore you had that courage in you. Because courage is actually knowing I'm afraid, but yet moving in that fear, which is really saying the fear is not really real. But I'm feeling it.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes. Israelite men are courageous men. They're not people that cower and that give up. Once they understand a thing, that they have been discerning and perceiving all of their lives. When they hear someone say, well, this is the way, I mean, that's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
They're gone. Brother, I was just talking, the way, he gone. You know what I'm saying? Walk in it. There you go. And so it's the Father. It's who the Father has made us. And and when we read the scriptures, all we do is we just see our fathers going through the same things.
Yes, sir.
Shaul says these are examples and samples.
Yeah.
This is evidence. That you are this, because you're feeling what they felt. You know what I mean? And so it's just beautiful.
Yes, it is.
When you really see it, just like a man when he sees the tree he planted growing, bearing, being alive. He didn't create the tree. Someone greater than he created the tree.
Yes.
And so that's the thing that we have to always recognize. So we have to even know it even in our sons. Someone greater than us created, used us. He created our son. He may have used me. I may have been intentional of wanting this boy. He created it. And we want to, when a son sees his father, when the father sees his son manifesting himself, man, he's like,
That's heavy.
joy.
How much more time we got on that limb? Because I wanna ask, like, oh yeah, we good. All right, so that's
Like
like,
we got about an hour left. This is the way you came.
oh no, we ain't got that long. But no, I think that this is something that a lot of men can benefit from. Is what you said, when that father sees his son in his image. What are some of the characteristics that a father must display in order to inherit that, in order to gain that son? So because they may have come at different points. Yeah. They may have come to the Israelite tradition at different points. You could have a son that's an infant, that's a toddler, that's adolescent, prepubescent, whatever, or a son that's an adult. What are some of the values, characteristics in nature that a father must have to gain that son so that they are in their image?
The embracing of his father.
Woo!
You cannot allow this world and all of its narration about what a man is
Yeah, man.
to taint you from embracing who the Father gave you as a father.
Yes.
The Father is too omniscient. That means he knows everything. And he's not limited through time to learn a thing. And so he knows who your father was because he selected him. He may have been used, what we said earlier, but the Father created you through him.
Yes.
So the Father didn't make a mistake in him. And so if you want to talk about dealing with your son and you have not dealt properly with your father, then, you don't like being wet, but you pissing in the wind.
Bro.
You know what I mean? And so, and so we have to get to that point to say that this earthly vessel or tabernacle, which had this treasure in it, which I ultimately became, is not worth denigrating to interrupt me as this treasure to create this tabernacle, my son. You can't make this man so big with the hurt that you received to actually cause you to denigrate the way of the Father.
Yes.
So you have to make it right. And that means all that I felt, all that I went through, all that I learned was for my good. Why? Because the Father used this man as a vessel to get me here.
Yeah.
So he has to be right.
Yes.
He didn't pull out.
Yeah. You didn't flush it.
He didn't spill it on the ground, which the Father hates. And there's hundreds of examples of men being wiped out, even from our father Judah, with his son. He stayed in.
He enjoyed the ride.
He enjoyed it. And he unconsciously, at a subconscious level, willed me.
Yeah.
And it was approved.
And it was approved.
Yeah.
And the Father okayed it, and I'm here. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
So it has to be a thing of you thanking that man.
Yeah.
And then doing that will realign you. It's a resetting almost. You take your battery out, the phone or some type of device, to reset it. And for us to be able to take out our will or our senses of what we have felt in a relationship with that man is the resetting, and then when the batteries are put back in, then it automatically goes through the proper waking up, and we wake up to begin to realize ain't nothing really wrong.
It works too.
I'm here. I'm alive. I got breath. You know what I'm saying? The Father, the sun is up. You know what I mean?
And like you're teaching us to forgive and to suspend our judgment of our fathers in order to be able to properly align our sons with us. And there's no preconditions on it.
And when you say forgive, I would say you want to say you forgive yourself.
Yes, yeah.
You
Unpack that for us, Elder.
Yeah, because
please.
to say I have to forgive him is after the fact of a judgment.
Right.
The scripture says your scripture says honor. That means weigh him as heavier than you.
Yes.
It is.
Put him in a place where you don't have the right to judge him. And so you have to then forgive yourself for you and for whoever assisted you to judge him. And that may be an actual forgiveness of a mother.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about forgiving him who you are.
Right. That's heavy.
Perpetual cycle right there.
It is.
Right,
Because
right.
you get in a loop.
Yeah, man.
And then your son will come here, operate from the same way. And so, and you'll never get out. And you'll never exhibit or be able to experience the sublimeness of a love between a father and a son.
Yes.
I mean, this woman may have held him and carried him and nursed him. But nothing beats the relationship between the father and his son.
Okay.
Because the father experiences the letting go and allowing someone else to create himself. I mean, after the fact, the father got that boy. And this is in the process of time. And he sees him and he sees himself and he's like, I think I remember the time this happened.
I remember.
Yeah, I can't do, but I'm trying to help other people,
I remember.
Because I'm intentional,
Right.
Every time.
Right? Every time. But hey, but this is proof that it did.
Okay.
And it wasn't me so much doing so much. So right there, you experiencing this heavenly thing. Where it's out of your hand, where you released it, someone else took over.
Yes.
If that's not a partnership with the Most High, there's nothing else that can put you on on a level of partnership with the Most High.
Now the inability to do so, it has to do with just a cultural spell that's put on us. Every culture has like a spell, and you move to it like a rhythm, not even knowing that you're moving to it. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So
And that spell is the belief. That's all.
that's what it is. That's what it is. So,
Belief system.
so like the culture that we're more accustomed to right now, it trains a man that he can receive without any work. So when what's going on? when it comes to receiving and dealing with your father from that elevated and subservient type of way, you have to understand that you need to earn what he already has. It wasn't supposed to just be given to you without you doing anything.
Entitlement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this particular culture, it teaches us to judge everyone and everything, and it teaches that every person is created equal. And this is just a fallacy.
Yes, it is.
And we know that because we see that some people are just not equal. It's just it's very plain to see. So when you now go back and you look at your father, you begin to create judgments that have no place in a godly relationship. There's no place in a godly relationship. And what you do is you begin to condemn your father, and then you begin to condemn yourself, because you sit and you say to yourself, this is where I came from, and it's worthless.
Imagine that.
This is where I came from. This is what I owe my being to. And it's worthless because he didn't do something for me
That I thought he should have done.
that he should have done.
Yeah.
And it's insane when you really think about it.
It is.
Mental illness.
It's ill.
Yeah, it's ill. And that's the whole, oldest book in the canonized book is Job. And that's primarily what that whole book narration is about.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It's
sir.
about a son judging a father to say that a father was wrong.
Yeah.
You know, consider my servant Job. You know what I mean? The father did it. You know what I'm saying? But then how the son is saying that was wrong. But he came to it to the point where he realized that even though he does, yet
Trust him.
I'm a trust him.
That's right.
That's the point.
Yeah.
And that has to be the narration of the son, because the father is coming from a, if we keep that paradigm of father and son, he's coming from a much higher, holier, heavier place. That his advantage points from where he is, having an eagle-eyed view, he knows what's up, and therefore he has to do here in order for you to get here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's out of our jurisdiction, and it's out of our realm of sanity to be able to judge that role and office of the father.
If I could just say something to that, I've been a man who has erroneously judged my father, and in the midst of doing that, when I snapped out of that insanity, and when you helped me snap out of that insanity, I also realized that it affected my relationship with all men.
Yes.
With all men.
Yes.
So I had this narrative of animosity with all men when I first interacted, and it was almost like they had to earn my respect in order for me to just deal with them in a way that was accepting. And once I was able to realize the error in my ways, then I was able to deal with men who loved me in a loving way. Because I wasn't able to do that before.
Right, too.
Because, if the core of you, the question that you asked was, how'd it go again? He said, how do you...
How does a father... What are the characteristics that a father must display? Because they may have come to the walk at different stages, infancy, prepubescence, whatever, for their son, but modeling certain characteristics in order to create your son in your image.
There it is. And that's the thing. So, and the elder said it so perfectly. He spoke of the relationship that you have with your father that has to be healed in order for you to have this relationship with other men, as I'm seeing it, and to create a man. Because if you have animosity with a man who created you, you'll have animosity with all men, and you'll create a bitter son. And they'll eventually end up having animosity with you.
100%.
And that's just math.
It is. It is.
That, and to the thing that you were talking about before, as far as what spirituality is and how we're led with spirituality, you said that. That in itself is spirituality in a nutshell. It's being able to add 1 + 1 in a divine manner. It's relationship science.
That's good. That's good. All right, family, we're going to wrap this up. We've had a lot of nuggets that were spoken intentionally to try to help you recover your righteous mind.
Hallelujah.
Especially if you're trying to recover your sons, because that's what we're fighting for. You can't have a strong nation if you don't have strong families. And family is the cornerstone of all of this. Follow my path and just my discovery of the significance of patriarchy. Everybody talks about the Messiah. and how they want to be a good son like the Messiah. But that in and of itself is the most perfect example of patriarchy, where a father has a son. And that son is so much like that father that that son said that if you see me, you see my father. And then he tells you that you are going to be a part of my body. How are you going to be a part of that body if you're not a part of the son that gives praise and glory and honor back to the Father? It all makes sense, family. So we honor the Honorable Dr. Thomas Murray for taking a moment to come and share time with us. We honor Elder Asa for sharing with us. We honor AriYahu for opening up his home, for inviting us in. It's absolutely beautiful. We honor AriYahu. We honor the other AriYahu, even my nephew, for sharing with us. We honor our cameraman, Lemuel, for holding it down. All right, we love y'all. Any closing comments before we go? Anything, anybody? I ain't want to cut anybody off. All right, family. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.